Welcome to The Impossible, where we empower others to face the impossible, inspire them to be impossible, and motivate them to do the impossible. And you guys have heard us talk a lot about potential. It's one of our favorite things to discuss on this podcast. And in fact, at Impossible Performance, we like to say we're in the business of human potential. But that potential does not just concern our own potential. It concerns the potential of everyone around us, everyone we encounter, and our efforts to help build up and strengthen and empower those around us, those who may not have the opportunity on a regular basis to do so, those who may view themselves as weak and incapable. We try to open up a whole new world of opportunity and potential for them so that they can realize they have a potential within themselves far beyond anything they could dream or hope for. And today I am very excited and truly honored to carry and bring onto the show two men who have taught me that lesson and who are opening up doors and helping provide this opportunity for people in ways that I've not really encountered before. So I'm incredibly honored to bring on Mr. Clayton Workman, who was on episode 5 of this podcast. He is the owner of Monsters Met Barbell. You guys can check out that episode to hear his story of all the impossible he's overcome in his life. And we also have with us today Mr. Layne, who is the founder and CEO of the United States Powerlifting Coalition, USPC. They are one of the fastest growing powerlifting federations in the entire sport of powerlifting. And beyond that, Johnny has worked harder than anybody I've ever seen to open up new opportunities for adaptive and para athletes to be able to come out and compete and show and find their true strength in the sport in a way that nobody has ever allowed for them before. So we're incredibly excited to have both you guys on the show. Thank you for being here. And to start, Johnny, I just wanted to have you give us a little bit of explanation of like what USPC is and how does it kind of stand out from most other powerlifting federations.
Well, USPC started in 2020, and we are primarily a monolift federation. We approach the rules of powerlifting from a more of a lifter standpoint, and I always wanted to kind of change the way people thought about powerlifting and the structure of it a little bit, and I got tired of hearing that rules and certain restrictions were restrictions because they've been that way for 30 years. So we started with an approach to run everything, every standard, everything through litmus of, is this for lifter safety or does it cause a competitive advantage? So that's kind of how all this started, and we built this federation off of that. We wanted to do something that also was a little flexible, and the para, we'll get into that, I'm sure, but not just with the para, but in other areas, we've been able to have some flexibility to move and adapt and change. We added more weight classes. We made the weight classes for the women match the men, which was always a disparity. We opened up opportunities with the band shirts as equipment has evolved and changed. We've kind of tried to roll and move with that kind of stuff. And again, with lifters in mind, utilizing the things that they utilize.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you actually summed it up perfectly in that explanation, because what I've always seen, and I know what Clayton has told me since I know you started working with USPC, is USPC is for the lifter. And I think it's more heavily focused on the lifter than any other federation, at least I've ever seen. And I've always felt that competing with you guys and competing in the meets, there's a whole different level of energy about those meets than most other federations I've been to before. And that's not to speak badly about any other federation, but I think when you can bring that much energy and that much focus about giving the lifter not just the best opportunity to compete as possible, but just the best all-around experience as possible, it brings them a whole new level of energy and excitement to their meet and to their performance. And I think that's a large part of what's allowed you guys to grow so quickly and rise in popularity, because it's funny to me, all these businesses I hear about that started in 2020, because that most people probably would have considered that not the best time to start a business.
It was maybe a little bit of a misstep, but I've not always done the smoothest things or the smartest things. It just kind of worked out that way.
Yeah, I love that though, because that's what we say. Like, you got to have we say like an unruly faith in your own potential. Like, you've got to be a little bit crazy to believe you can do something you shouldn't be able to do.
I just throw a quick bit in with the monster side of thing. We started in 2019 of being where we're at and being as big as we've gotten at this point. We started in 2019 in the midst of all the madness and all that, and a lot of uncertainty at the time, but again, a belief in the community and what we bring to the table, much like Johnny with USPC. It's simplicity and let's do what we do. Put all the drama and BS to the side. Let's just go lift. Let's not worry about a rule that really doesn't matter, or drama between me and Matt's got a beef, or me and whoever. Hey, I don't care about any of that. Let's just go do what we do. And that's a lot of what Johnny brings to the sport in general with that, and the same with Monsters. But yeah, it's odd how things kind of happen, and we're like, I know Johnny wasn't necessarily planning on the federation and the COVID and all the stuff at the time. I've been lifting with him for a very long time, and it's been an oddly but a very good experience because we got to be part of that, of building everything back. I think we were one of the first meets, and we had 30 plus lifters, I think. And this is in the midst of all the COVID madness. So it's been an interesting ride for that, for sure.
And you bring up a good point. We want to get rid of all the drama in the sport. And, every federation says they're for the lifter, stuff like that. We truly live that because you can lift somewhere else and we don't ban you. You could judge somewhere else. We don't ban you. You're not truly for the lifter if you come up with all these arbitrary rules of, hey, if you do this, we're banning you, and you lift here or you judge there. And even, especially in the cases of judges who are usually volunteers, these federations are dictating where they can volunteer their time or they lose their status within that federation. We also took it a step further. And I've always lived with the belief that if you're wearing somebody else's shirt, another federation's shirt or singlet or whatever, and you're on my platform, I would much rather you wear their stuff, paying me to lift in my meet, as opposed to going the other direction. So we don't worry about that. If you want to be up there with a different federation singlet or shirt, perfectly fine. I have better stuff, but we don't kick you off the platform or give you any grief over it. It's not going to cost you any red lights or anything like that. We just want you to lift, and we want lifters to come and lift and compete on our platform. If they have opportunities to go elsewhere, I just had one of our judges say, "Hey, man, I'm going to be back with USPC soon, but I've got an opportunity to." Go lift out in Vegas with another federation." And I said, "Hey man, take that opportunity and do it. Get back when you can get back. That's great." So I don't know that you'll get that in too many other federations. So again, that's a big part of what we want to bring to the table too.
Mm-hmm. I think that really demonstrates like being for the lifter and honestly for powerlifting, the whole powerlifting community in general, because you talk about, your own judges and the people who volunteer with USPC. Odds are when those people go out and compete or volunteer with those other federations, they're going to learn something, and they're going to grow as a lifter, or grow as a judge, grow however they may grow. And then they come back, they bring some of that knowledge, wisdom, and insight to USPC, and that just pushes the whole community forward, I think. So that's an incredible goal, an incredible objective, and just a really refreshing piece to bring to the world of powerlifting, because I don't know where all this drama and stuff comes from. I think you see it in so many parts of society and in human nature. I think sometimes it's just can be in our nature if we allow it to be. But it's something that, honestly, it's one of the main draws that took me to Monsters was the fact that there's just no drama. And like at the time, the big saying was, "I just want to lift heavy with my friends." And I remember seeing that online, and I saw that. I was like, all right, this is the place. Like this is where I got to be. This is where I want to go. And of course, I still remember meeting with Clayton in the office there, and he's bringing me around, showing me all this equipment that I've only seen on YouTube before. And I'm trying to act totally natural, like, oh, no big deal. But I'm like freaking out inside, so excited. And it's always been a core part of Monsters that, we don't make it about one specific sport. We don't make it about one specific type of training. What's cool about it is you see so many people from so many different disciplines, so many different sports, so many different styles of training and mindsets and approaches. And it really allows you to explore all these different areas and learn in new ways that you never would have thought possible. That's been a huge part of my growth as an athlete. But what, because I know you guys knew each other before, like long before USPC or before Monsters, what kind of brought you guys together and got you moving in this direction towards building parts of the powerlifting community that are really for the lifters and for the sport itself?
Well, I'll take a stab at this one. I was actually a gym owner myself for 12 years. And I think Clayton, probably the first time we crossed paths was at one of the meets at my gym.
It was actually the very first meet you hosted I competed at. That was the War Games at the ski resort.
Oh,
the
wow.
CrossFit competition.
The Coalfield War Games. Yes.
That was the first time I ever met you.
CrossFit competition?
It was a CrossFit and powerlifting.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was like, Clayton, I didn't know this about you.
But that's the
he was
only
channeling
meet,
his inner Rich Froning is what it was.
Only meet I ever bombed out of was my very first meet, but that's when I met Johnny. Really didn't get to know each other at all at that point, but definitely soon after that.
Oh, wow. Okay. See, I was thinking your first one was probably at my old gym in Kingmont. But
yeah, that was the next one. Yeah.
Okay. So anyways, the Coalfield War Games, we could do our own podcast on that one. That was the first first sanctioned powerlifting meet that I directed. I had done some non-sanctioned stuff, and that's a whole separate podcast to get into how I ended up directing powerlifting meets and doing so much, because I was a gym owner and I really just kind of wanted to get my meet sanctioned at my gym, but that became a whole big process, and then it mushroomed into stuff, and now here we are. But the Coalfield War Games was an episode of how not to run a powerlifting meet. Really, it was a mess.
It was interesting.
It was something, but yeah, I didn't realize that. But I had a gym for 12 years, and I had a great culture at my gym that was I believe was great culture. That I had a good training group that I trained with. Now I lost the culture as I got more into running powerlifting meets, because when you hire somebody to run your place, they're not run it the way you do. But that kind of speaks well to what Monsters is, because Monsters has that culture, and really a bigger and better one than what even I had at the time. And it's something that you can't really teach or train. It really comes from the top. So it shows Clayton's involvement, his leadership from the top. He leads from the front. And it's just such an amazing group of people. I've talked to him before about making the trek out to train with you guys, because there's just, you can go to a gym, you can maybe find a training partner, but the culture that everybody feeds off of each other and gets better and improves and pushes each other, that's hard to find. And there's lots of great stories of people driving the west side and sleeping in the parking lot and waiting to go train and stuff like that. And many other gyms have those same sort of stories. But so it's really something special you guys have there at Monsters. And like I say, it comes from the top, because I know for a fact I thought that I could step away and run meets and kind of leave it to other people to run things, and you just lose it. If you're not involved, you lose it. So
I know from my end of getting with Johnny, when we actually started becoming USPC, he was involved in another federation. We were trying to get meets, but he was pretty full on his schedule, so it just didn't happen. He started the USPC at the same time the COVID thing kind of rolling, and we had a lot of the same mentality and thought processes, political-wise, if you will, of, hey, let's just keep doing what we do and help build those type of things back. Because I think we were the second meet really after everything really started rolling back.
Probably so, yep.
And that was the first big meet we really had rolling for our gym itself. Previously, we worked with another federation, a couple smaller meets, 10, 15 lifter kind of stuff. I believe the first one, but with Johnny, we had 30 or so right around there. So we had a pretty good clue that, hey, this is probably going to work out pretty good as a partnership. As he moved away from his gym, we kind of absorbed his meets and added a meet actually with our Monsters meet that we do. But it's been really, really good partnership. I think we work together well with a lot of things, especially with the para thing and trying to make this happen. I think it's going to be a pretty awesome deal.
Yeah, it's something I've been incredibly excited for since the division really started. Now that we've got the para nationals and the para only meet, I'm truly excited for the opportunities that's going to bring. There's a lot of interest and a lot of excitement for it. I'm hoping we start getting a lot of people signed up here soon, because everybody I talk to that's an adaptive athlete, like, they're just completely blown away by it. That it's just something they've never, because we as adaptive athletes, we are used to having to work around everything that in whatever sport, whatever organization, we're used to have to working around all of their rules and trying to figure out a way that we can come out and even be allowed to compete, let alone try to come out and actually perform, And I remember from the first time I competed in USPC, which would have been that August meet of 2023, I think, because it was right after I'd broken my real foot, and that was a wild time. I ran like a half marathon the week before, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go do a powerlifting meet next weekend, just for the fun of it. And it was the first time I'd ever competed with USPC, and I just remember like the energy at that meet was something I'd never experienced before. Even at like some of the biggest marathons and stuff I'd done, I'd never experienced that particular type of energy. And beyond that, the fact that you guys just made it so easy for me, like in the sense that like I didn't feel like my prosthetic was an issue for anybody. Like they were willing to, like work around it and make sure that I was still held to the same judging standards. That's something I cared about a lot. But the fact that you weren't thinking that was going to give me some kind of competitive advantage, because I promise you it doesn't. But people literally will tell you that, that they'll find ways to believe that missing part of your body or having a challenge, or what people would call a disability in some cases, they'll find ways to say, well, that's not completely fair, and it's not completely equal to everybody else. I think sometimes, especially in the sport of powerlifting, we get a little lost too much in the weeds on making sure everything is completely fair and the exact same for everybody, that we take away from the sport, sometimes take away from the competition. I know I've been to competitions before where like you had to wear a certain type of underwear under your certain type of singlet, with your certain type of belt, so that everybody had the same thing. And I don't know, to me, that just kind of takes away from some of the marvel of the sport. Is that something you guys have seen throughout your careers?
I think my biggest vision of that, it takes opportunity away.
Yeah.
Because, and I know it was a big thing for a long time, and I think the USPC has really pioneered that aspect of, hey, as long as your equipment meets this spec, I don't care what brand it is. Previously, and I think a lot of federations still, they have to pay their fees to the feds. A company like Pioneer that we're all very familiar with and use, hey, you got to pay your federation fees or you can't use your gear. We know you make their belt and they're approved, but your particular gear isn't approved. That's one of the things Johnny and the federation has done completely away with. Wrist wraps and those type of things. Hey, if it's not this brand of wrist wrap, you can't use it. Well, it's made by this company, yeah, but they're not approved. So they've done phenomenal with getting away from that, which I think carries over to some of the para athletes and some of the adaptations for you guys' superpowers. I know people think they're disabilities, but I think they're superpowers in so many ways. And there's recently a gentleman talking, and Matt's familiar, Johnny probably is too, was recently on a podcast, and he deals a lot with this. I cannot remember the gentleman's name or his platform. Yeah, Jared.
Yeah.
But they have the attitude of, hey, you're lucky we let you live with us. And I'm like, it's an honor for me to get to compete with this gentleman. He's phenomenal in his drive and determination and the things he does that people just know about his disabilities. They don't know the lengthy history of other things that goes on with them. That I'm like, yeah, to get back to the point, they've done a great job of making it fair across the board and not, well, he didn't get there by 1 degree because of his bad hip. It's not about that. Does he make spec? Does he meet qualifications? Okay, it's good, And that's one of the things that Johnny and them have done a great job with. And we'll dive farther into, but allowing some specialty equipment that nobody else has ever done before, that we're like, hey, okay, you don't have arms in Jeff's case. Hey, how can we still deadlift? You need to do that? Hell yeah, let's do that. That's good with me, It definitely isn't an advantage by no means, So,
despite what Instagram may say.
Yeah.
He got to use straps.
Yeah.
I don't know how he was supposed to pick that bar up otherwise. He's not figured out how to levitate it yet.
Yeah.
But,
So I remember, I can't remember if it was that meet or if it was the meet in December, Johnny, but I know it was one of those two meets. You came up to me and you said you were playing around with the idea of doing a para division and asked if I'd help out with it. And I immediately said yes, because anyway, like I could bring that kind of experience I'd felt with USPC to other adaptive lifters, I knew that would be absolutely life-changing for them. And what made you first have interest in doing that and want to set that up as part of USPC?
Previously, I've had para athletes lift with me in different capacities, amputees, arms, legs, and stuff like that. And we had made allowances, but there wasn't really anything set like a standard. And it was all seemed kind of arbitrary. We had a technical chairman with the other federation, and I would reach out if a lifter said, "Hey, I'm missing 2 digits." I would have to reach out to that technical chairman. He would need a picture, and then he would make a decision whether they could use a strap or not. And there wasn't really a lot of rhyme or reason to it, and we just put them in with the normal able-bodied stuff. But that really left a lot of gaps in there. So anyways, I was inspired by your performance, and Angelia Aura, my vice president, she was at that meet, and we just started discussing it. I said, this might be something we could do something with, and include more people into. And then we talked to you and kind of opened the door to it. And I think it was that very first meet you did, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was maybe the first one, yeah.
And I think Jeff lifted in the next one.
Yeah.
And then that just kind of like, man, we actually have to put something. Before it was more of an idea, let's include it, but we really didn't know how.
It was an exhibition kind of thing almost.
Yeah. We didn't necessarily have a great plan of how we're going to put together records, how we're going to open up divisions for it, what kind of standards are we going to have. And that's where you came in. I'm like, well, you're a lot smarter than I am, so I'm going to let everybody filter to you. Matt can be my bad guy. So when somebody says, I'm just cranky all the time, can I be in para? No, it takes more than that. You can't just have, a tricky finger or something like that. But we then started seeing how this needed to evolve. And even now, as we're looking more at these nationals, and I'm getting some questions. I've got an email yesterday asking about the seated deadlift. I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to spend a lot more time studying up on the seated deadlift because that's not really something I'm that familiar with. And but we're willing to learn, we're willing to evolve and change and get in the and it's something I'm going to have in my June. I do a January and a June edition of the rule book, and we'll have changes to it. We're going to have more of a para division there that's going to define a lot of these things. We're kind of working on it now, and we'll kind of survey everybody and kind of get a feel for what we need to do. Yourself, Jared, obviously, Doug Nostrad is obviously a good resource. So it's going to evolve and expand and grow, and we're all going to learn from it. But I think that's, not to toot our own horn too much, but I think that's a big part of what gives us an advantage is we have the freedom and the willingness to learn and evolve and make this into what it needs to be.
Yeah, and I think that's got to be a driving piece behind just USPC's growth in general. The growth that I've been fortunate enough to witness just over the past few years, but starting in 2020 to now, it's only 5 years later, and you guys are nationwide. Like literally, we have a para athlete competing tomorrow, and when he called me up and said he was competing on April 5th, I was like, oh, I'll be at that meet too. And he's like, you're flying to California? And I was like, no. But I didn't even realize there's a Pacific Regional Championship going on tomorrow on April 5th in California. And so he's competing at that one, and he is super stoked for it. But he's a great example of a para athlete that he's got he was in a really bad car wreck. He had a drunk driver hit him, and so he suffered a really bad TBI from that, and it left him partially paralyzed on his left side. So he's got a lot of severe muscular weakness and involuntary movements on the left side, which that qualifies as para per the World Para Powerlifting Organization rules that we follow. And he can still come out and lift, but he again never thought he'd have the opportunity to go compete, because in some federations, like, he may have a slight wobbliness to him that's not because he can't handle the weight. It's just because his CNS isn't intact enough to allow for it, but he can still move the weight, hit depth, and come back up with the weight, And so being able to offer an opportunity for him to come out and compete is huge for him, and he's so excited for it. You know, and he's a great example too, that there's all kinds of things you may not think about. Like Clayton brought up, I've got a lot of challenges I face. Everybody looks at me and sees the one leg, and you know, I think they think that, oh, that's his like biggest thing. And like the leg for me is a minor detail. Like that's barely an inconvenience at this point. You know, I've got all kinds of other things going on that I don't even need to get into. But this gentleman, like, he's deaf in his left ear. So there's little things like with commands on bench. He said if he's looking at somebody, he could read lips well enough to get the command. But his like front facing hearing and his left hearing is very poor. So to be able to just make little changes, like have the right side judge call commands on bench and stuff so he can hear it and do it. You know, I don't know that that's something even a lot of other federations would do, but that's such a small, simple, easy thing that does not give him any advantage whatsoever. It just allows him to compete in the same way that fully able bodies people could compete. And so it's cool to really see this division start to grow a little bit and come together. And we've got so many incredible people like Jeff, you know, put a great spotlight on it. He had a deadlift, I think it was last April when he did that, and got like 60 million views across all platforms.
That's insane.
It's just unbelievable. And it's just a 7-second deadlift video. That's all it is, you know. And of course it sparks controversy, you know, because you always have the people who are trying to tear people down. But I think far and away it sparked a lot of wonder and excitement, because seeing people break past any barriers is fascinating, I think, for the human mind. But to see people who, by all accounts, shouldn't even be up on the platform or lifting weights in general, come out and do something like that, like push past these barriers, like a 405-pound deadlift that's a big deal for anybody.
Oh, sure.
You know,
yeah,
like probably 95% of the world can't do that. You know, and the fact Jeff can come out and do it with no arms is huge. You know, so I think it really opens up people's minds a lot to what potential could lay out there for them. And that's why we love it so much, is because that's everything we're about with what we do here, is keeping an open mind to that potential and believing that you have access to things beyond what you would consider your capabilities. So that's why I'm so incredibly excited for the division. And I'm really excited for the Paranationals this summer. What gave you the idea to want to? Because I know Clayton was a big part of that.
I think I'm the one that kind of planted that seed. I think the para idea was starting to roll, and I'm like, hey, I'd like to kind of see how we could push this. And I have some big long-term goals to try to make, and that involve the USPC as a whole, but particularly with the para side. And I'm like, hey, let's see if we can really blow this thing up. Here's an opportunity that most people don't even know is available. And I think that's part of the reason the Jeff video really took off, is people were like, I didn't know you could compete with no arms in deadlift and or squat, you know? So here's an opportunity. And that was some of the stuff we did recently with some of the promotion. We went to the Arnold Classic and got the opportunity to talk to people in a wheelchair or missing an arm or a leg or whatever superpower, to me.
Yeah.
That they have that
out there with dwarfism that squatted like 600 in the animal cage.
And people were like, we didn't know these were options. Yeah. So you mean I can go compete? I don't have any legs, dude. He's like, yeah, come on. You can still get on the platform and do what we do. A lot of more lifters are interested already. And to give them that opportunity is like, it's opened up another whole world. I know I'll speak for myself, and I've never been in a para type situation, but I've had some addiction issues and those type of things. And this gave me an opportunity to beat all those things, you know? So I see that as a lot of the mental side. I know Matt and them talk about that a lot, but for his conditions and his issues, I'm lucky I get to go live with this guy all the time. And I talk to people about him, and they're like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, he's just another member at the gym. And they're like, huh? I'm like, here's a video with like 460 and he's squatting to depth. And they're like, oh, how is that possible? You're going to talk to him. I don't know, man. But to me, the whole opportunity, I always feel fortunate to be a part of it. It's just incredible, again, to bring something to people that didn't even know they could, you know? I think we do that in a lot of ways with different people, but this is one of those aspects that I feel fortunate in. People brought up, hey, we ought to get in more into the veteran side. I know that's something we need to talk about, but there's another opportunity that we've had that with some gentlemen previously that have been handicapped, and Johnny knows a couple of them at the time that we got to be part of. And I'm like, dude, these guys got drive, and if you point them in a direction, they're unstoppable, you know?
Yeah. That guy that was out with us, we were at the Mars Bar booth squatting, the guy in the wheelchair that came out. His name, well, I don't know what his actual full name is. He only goes by Legless Larry. missing both legs and about half his fingers on both hands. And he got blown up in Iraq, and he was serving our country. Just great dude, phenomenal mindset, phenomenal outlook on his situation in life. I actually totally randomly met him at a concert, and we got to talking and found out he was into lifting and stuff, and told him about the para division, things like that. But he's wanting to come out and compete this summer. But what was cool is, like, you know, I do my squats at the Mars Bar booth, and we walk across the Arnold to the Army booth, and he goes there and does 120 push-ups in 60 seconds.
Good grief.
Which I'm like watching this and I'm filming it, and I like don't even believe what I'm looking at. Like it's insane. But, and you know, of course he gets about 45 seconds in and he's just in a world of pain. But just like watch, like you just see him lock in mentally, and he just drives through the whole rest of that. And I think that's where being in the para side, it gives you access to a little bit more mental power that you may not have had otherwise.
Your superpower, like I said.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. That's a great term for it, because for me, if I'd have never got my leg cut off, I'd have never been in a gym. I'll guarantee you that. You know, not at least not nearly to the capacity I am now. So in many ways, I'm stronger because I lost my leg than I ever would have been otherwise.
I was thinking about that on the way over here, so it's funny you brought that up.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
like,
something the adversity actually pushes you to be more.
Yeah. And I think it also opens up your mind to what you can do, you know, because when you like for me, my example, you lose a leg and then you still have to function throughout all of daily life, and you realize you still can do that, even though that you maybe never thought you'd be able to. Well, then you start asking the question, what else can I do? And that's really what this whole journey for me has been, just one after, you know, the first time I ran a 5K and then a 10K and then a half marathon, you know, you just keep asking that question of what's next and what potential is still out there. And I think the para division is a perfect reflection. I think it's a great opportunity for people to come out and find answers to those questions.
Well, I'd back up what Clayton had said. He did bring it up, is really his idea. We offered para as a option in our nationals, which we call Americas, and in pretty much every meet we give it as an option. But it's treating it more like an afterthought, and there's really nothing set up for those lifters to accommodate them. So if they needed a para bench and need to be strapped down, we don't have that at nationals. I don't have it at regular meets. So like Clayton brought up, you know, Monsters is a great place to kind of kick this off and kind of make this the hub for powerlifting. And let's get the equipment, the things that we need, and we're still in the process of doing that. But we need the para bench. We need the seated deadlift. Let's get the right stuff here, and that way we can kind of incorporate all these para lifters and, you know, take care of any accommodations that we need to make this all work out.
Yeah, and I love that idea, because I love that it's offered as an opportunity for every meet. But like you say, there may be some specialized equipment that lifters need that just can't be brought to every single meet. So giving them one central place to compete with all of the equipment that they could ever need is a great opportunity. But I think even deeper than that, what's more meaningful to the athletes is the fact that we actually get to compete against other athletes. And, you know, there's a lot of times, because I'll come out and compete, you know, in an open against other people. And I'm just not a person. I don't care about winning against other people. I'm only ever set on winning against myself. That's just my personal drive. I know everybody's got different drives. But the fact of the matter is that I'm likely never going to outlift most 275 power lifters, just with the fact of missing a leg and other things, you know? And so it's like kind of hard to actually be really competitive at the top of your level with some of the challenges our lifters face. And so to come out and have the opportunity of not even just a level playing field, but just the opportunity to compete against other people who are facing challenges similar to what you face. And, you know, we don't necessarily divide it up to like amputees or dwarfism or ataxia or cerebral palsy. We just kind of put everybody together, and then we have the standard weight classes and the divisions. But still, it's like everybody's got their own unique challenges. And I think you see that at a powerlifting meet too. Somebody may suffer with anxiety and depression. Somebody may, suffer with addiction. There's all these different challenges people have coming into any event like this. And so for para, you know, everybody's got their challenge they're facing and overcoming. And some people may have it a little easier in one area and a little harder in another area. But just the ability to come out and compete against somebody else, that's something that we're not really given in the world of athletics, hardly at all. So to have an opportunity for that specifically, I think is really going to be powerful for a lot of our athletes.
And we've also, to kind of go along with that, I just spoke to my IT girl last weekend, and we're now building the database for the para records. So she's, and it's all above my head, but I said, if I paid you to do this, could we actually make it look like the normal records? Because right now it's all on a Google Doc sheet, and I don't want to make it look like, it's an afterthought or it's just something we've just kind of tossed around with. So I want to incorporate it into a nice format that it just basically becomes a drop-down box. You select regular division, just like you would an age division, but you can select para. And then that gives you all your numbers, your weight classes, so on and so forth. We'll have the seated deadlift in there as well. But, so we're investing in it. We're spending time on it and resources. So I'm really counting on it to grow and expand and become a lot more.
I think that's a big part of the sport. There's two things here I want to touch real quick. Big part of the sport in general is most of us just want to be evolved and be part of something. That's kind of human nature. So I think it's great in that aspect with people with superpowers. I'm gonna quit calling them disabilities, with superpowers, to have those opportunities. That here's somebody that, hey, in Matt's case, he's missing a leg. Oh, look, here's somebody else missing a leg. Hey, wonder what prosthetic or who he's using or whatever. So there's a big opportunity of that connection and networking with a lot of that stuff. And maybe somebody using Jeff and his harness as an example. Hey, how can I get one of those because I have this going on, or I'm dealing with somebody that has this? Again, I think it's almost a limitless network in that aspect. But again, getting like-minded people together, not just lifters, but okay, they have a superpower as well that may prevent them from trying to do something else in life, but here's something they can still do and be part of. The powerlifting community is such a huge family, and that's what Monsters has been built from. And that's, people love the environment, but it's kind of built off that everybody's welcome, everybody's involved. It's built off that powerlifting mentality of, hey, let's just do what we do. Be respectful. It's one of the things Johnny will tell you, that him hosting a meet, he won't tolerate anybody being disrespectful, being rude. People are going to lose their temper. They get upset, they miss a lift, but you can't go over and cuss out a judge because he didn't give you a call you wanted. You can't go talk trash to another lifter. A lot of those type of things, because this is what we build. These are community standards in a lot of ways that powerlifting definitely brings to the table. And I think that's something we bring to the para side. And again, just being involved,
Yeah. I think that's a huge piece of it. And that's where, like, Monsters specifically has been so impactful to me and Austin, and everything we've been able to work to build here is it all started there. It opened our eyes to what a community, and like Johnny talked about, like what kind of culture you can build, especially when you lead from the front in the way you do. And it's really wild to me, especially with this most recent prep of being in the shirt. And I know it might seem like a small thing to you, but man, I like will tear up a little bit when I think about it sometimes. Just like the knowledge and the information and the time and everything you've given me that has just awoken a whole new level of passion in an area I never really considered before, just within the world of lifting. But for you to take the time and energy and effort to open up this new world to me, like that just means the absolute world to me.
It's a huge honor to me to get to teach people things. It really is. And I enjoy that. And I do that with people that I know is going to pass it on. I'm not going to take somebody that is abrasive or crude and a lot of those things and take them under my wing, if you will, and walk them through some step-by-step stuff, trying to learn a bench strut and a new piece of equipment that I've just recently tried to figure out myself. But those are huge opportunities to me that I know you're going to share on different levels with people. That's where it's an honor to me to get to do what I do. People think I'm the head of this with the Monsters thing, and then I'm like, hey man, I'm a product of what I got to experience and share and bring up. I've numerous people that have been a pleasure to me to be around in my life. I always mention Gary. Gary's one of those people that has been a mentor, and literally have words with somebody, then turn around, hey, let's go get our shit set in. Let's do what we do. you know? So that's what I want to continue to pass along and share. Just, again, that's what the powerlifting sports have been about for a very long time. There's been different groups, that are aggressive and can be nasty and whatever, but in general, it's just a big family of people that are happy to get to lift together, you know?
Yeah.
We're having a little cookout after weigh-ins this evening, just as one of those examples of just to bring people together and do what we do, you know?
I'm very excited for it. I have a lot of calories to catch up on today.
I always tell people that powerlifting is one of these unusual sports where you will be head-to-head with somebody competing in the same weight class, but that person or vice versa is cheering on the other person to beat them, to get the lift that might take the first place.
Me and Matt will be in that exact situation
lifter.
tomorrow. Both of us competing in the shirt 275s,
Yeah, you're both
I'll be handing off to him and whatnot and coaching him, and I hope he beats me. People are like, what happens if so-and-so? I'm like, I hope they do. This is why we do this stuff,
You're not going to give him a handoff that's like right at his eyes and let him drop it on his head, shove it down on him like, there you go. Yeah, it's just not that way. Most people, really they want to be challenged. They want to be pushed. And they don't want to win a powerlifting meet when somebody's not at their best. Yeah. They want to compete against the best. And it just doesn't mean as much if somebody. It was always upsetting to me because I've won. I actually did compete years ago, but I've won some places where I've had some great matchups, and the person bombs out on deadlift or something, like, oh man, we were cooking, and this is going to come down to the wire. But sometimes it happens that way. Sometimes it's me bombing out. But it is one of the great things about the sport, and how people come together in a warm-up room is something that always amazes me.
I always talk about our place, but our place I think is very unique. I usually have a group of 3 to 5 competitive lifters in my warm-up room, just spotting and loading for everybody to make sure things flow. And those guys don't have to be there. They're not getting paid to be there. They're there because they love being there, They enjoy getting to help and build people and teach those things. I know there's some new lifters almost every meet we host, and they're like wandering around like, what do I do? What do I do? Then after the meet, they're talking to me about, hey, so-and-so was a really big help. I'm like, was it one of the guys in the back room? Yeah. And I'm like, that's good. That's one of the experiences that I think we bring to the table. That's pretty awesome. And I know some people are kind of nervous with the paranational things and how to spot and a lot of those type of things, but I'm like, hey, let's just do what we do. They're lifters too. We'll figure it out as we go, as we do in the sport quite often, If it's some improvising and, hey, I don't have a belt. Okay, there's one hanging on the wall. Dude, go grab it. Here, want mine? Yeah. That's what we do. And people look at us like we're crazy, and I talk about the sport, that aspect, but that's what drives us. It's that little friendly, brotherly rivalry that, come on, what do you got, buddy? Here's what I did. What are you going to do today? You got to beat that, And it's never anything mean or malicious by that. It's just passion. I mean, that's my best description for it.
Yeah. And one of my favorite things about the sport in general, and I think it will apply heavily to the para division, is like today we were at weigh-ins this morning, saw all these faces I hadn't seen since, some of them I didn't even see at the last meet or the meet before. It's maybe been a year since I've seen them. And these are people that I don't know outside at all. Like, I never have spoken to them outside of competitions at Monsters, but we walk up and just say hi to each other and embrace and talk to each other like we are the oldest of friends. And I think it's because we all know what it takes to put yourself in a place to get under a weight that could absolutely crush you. And the amount of like fear and anxiousness and whatever else you may have to work through to get under that kind of weight, and then take it to depth and fight against it to come back up and complete the lift. We are all so in touch with the part of the human spirit that it takes to do something like that. And so I think when you can just understand somebody else on that level, it makes all of the outside stuff almost irrelevant. And you can just immediately connect with somebody on so much of a deeper level than you ever would have otherwise. And I know that that's true as well, just for people who have, the superpowers, as Clayton calls them. I love that. Like that's how Legless Larry and I, we connected immediately because we both understood what each other had been through to a point. We're all going to have unique aspects to our challenges. But I think when you're able to combine that sort of the things that all of these para athletes have been through, when you combine that with that understanding of the part of the human spirit it takes to get on that platform and compete at that level, I think it's going to create a network and a community that is just so incredibly tight knit and enriching and building up of all the individual athletes and everybody around them. And so I think it's going to be an incredible opportunity. And Johnny, I can't tell you how thankful I am to you and to Clayton for opening up and providing for this opportunity to happen.
We're excited for it. We can't wait. The other little plug I'll throw out there for our paralifters that might be interested, not only is this a great opportunity to get on the platform, get around other paralifters, set some records, and just have a good time lifting with friends, lifting heavy things with friends. Is that how it goes? Yeah. I mentioned Doug Nostronk will be there. He is the head coach of the USA para-powerlifting team. Never hurts to make a good impression in front of the head coach of the para-powerlifting team too. So something to keep in mind about maybe even something further than what we're going to do here in August. But you've got 4 or 5 months to get ready to train for this thing. We're going to do everything to make it as smooth and as accommodating as possible with good standards, heavy weights, safe environment, and a lot of fun.
Yeah, love it, man. I couldn't have said it better myself. Guys, thank you for being on this episode. I really appreciate you jumping on to chat about this. Johnny, if people want to reach out to you or learn more about the para division or USPC in general, what's the best place they can find you?
Matt Hill.
Yeah, I'll take that. I love it.
It's Johnny. It's JOHNNY at USPC.pl. And, of course, my website is USPC.pl.
Yeah. But if you guys have questions about the para division, always feel free to reach out to me. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, any of our platforms. But you can also email me directly at matt@impossibleperformance.com. I'm going to have to be the guy anyway that gives you a thumbs up or a thumbs down, so you might as well just reach out to me directly, and we'll make it work. The para division, like Johnny said, just real quick for people, it's based on World Para Powerlifting standards as to whether you get in or not. We make those decisions on a 100% case-by-case basis. We also allow for certain adaptations if people need them. So like Daniel competing this weekend, he's having a right side judge call for him. You know, we've had other lifters who have had to use certain straps or certain different types of bars, things like that, not to give them a competitive advantage, but our intent is to allow you to come out and compete at your highest potential. So we make those again on a 100% case-by-case basis. And if you need anything like that to come out and compete at your highest level, we'll find a way to make it happen. So guys, please share this episode with anybody you may know who you think it could help, anybody you think that would be interested in the para division, because we want to get the word out on this, make this division and the para nationals meet as big as it can possibly be. That para nationals meet is happening this summer at Monsters Bet Barbell on August 23rd. We are incredibly excited for it and hope to see all of you guys there. Clayton, sir, if people want to reach out to you or learn more about you or Monsters or the community and culture we're building there, how can they find you?
Just chase us down, Monsters Bet Barbell. We're on Instagram, Facebook, all those things. Google search easy too. We're top of the list for gyms. So I just want to throw one other quick thing out. If you want to do para nationals and you're having some issues, let us know your needs and we'll do what we can to help. I will as a gym owner, as part of Monsters. I'm sure Johnny will as well with some of those things, and I'm sure Matt, but let us know anything we can do to make that happen for you.
Yeah. We're also working with some companies trying to set up some sponsorships and things like that to get a certain amount of travel expenses and things like that covered and help with those, because I know that's always a huge constraint for people. Travel can be really tough and quite costly. So if you guys need help with that, don't let it turn you away from Paranationals. We're here to find out ways to help you. Can't always make guarantees, but we are definitely here to work with you and help you as much as possible, because we want to get this opportunity to as many people as possible. So guys, appreciate you being on here. I had one thing I was hoping you could close us out with here, Johnny. Ever since I've first started working with you, communicating with you, I've noticed the closing signature that you had to your email. And it says, work every day like there's somebody working 24 hours a day to take everything you have away from you. And I just wanted to get a little bit of insight into what that, because you work about harder than about anybody I know. I don't understand how you can go from one corner of the country to the next corner of a country in a weekend and do 80 hours worth of work that week in between. But I wanted to get your thoughts on that quote, what it means to you, and, you know, just how everybody can move forward with that kind of mindset you bring to your work.
Well, that's actually a Mark Cuban quote.
Is it really?
It is, yeah. But and it's always resonated with me because that's kind of the way I approach things. Is I want to, in the gym can be this way, or work can be this way, but I want to outwork people. I may not be the smartest guy. I'm definitely not the tallest guy, and so I want to just outwork. And I remember when I was playing football in school, I had a coach that he said, "You're always going to make mistakes, but make aggressive mistakes. Don't make lazy mistakes." So I always love that one. You know,
aggressive
so
mistakes.
if you make mistakes, do it aggressively.
Yeah.
You know, but that is just kind of something that I live by. I try to just outwork everybody. I got up this morning and ran 4 miles before I jumped in the truck and drove to hour and a half to Parkersburg, and then unloaded a trailer. So, you know, it's not, that doesn't make me superhuman or anything like that, but I'm getting a little older, and I just always thinking, well, I just got to keep working. I got to keep moving. So that's really kind of it. While maybe my competition is sleeping and laying back thinking, well, they're the best, or they've hit a certain achievement, I always want to grow and develop and get bigger and better and expand and do more. So that's kind of
I love that,
the genesis of that.
That's something that's available to everybody at every situation you're in. Like you say, you may not be the most gifted or the brightest or the smartest or even the strongest, but you can always work harder no matter where you, and that's true of anybody in the world. There's like, that's an infinite game. As there's a guy, Alex Hormozy, he'd call it, you want to play infinite games where you can never get to the top, you can never win, but you can always improve. Mm-hmm. And I love that, man. But you made the comment about running 4 miles. You're not interested in running a marathon, are you?
I'm actually training the Ruck Marathon.
Interesting. We're going to have to talk about this a little bit off camera. But anyway, guys, I want to get you back on the road. I know you got a lot to accomplish still today, Johnny. Appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate you guys all for listening. As we said, the only thing we ever ask of you guys on this show, we don't run crazy ads. We don't interrupt the experience. We don't do anything like that. The only thing we ask for you is totally free with very low barrier to entry, and that's to share this show with as many people you know that you believe it could help. Anybody you know who may be part of the para community or want to help out in the efforts for the para nationals, please share it with them because we want to help get the word out on this and help spread it as far as humanly possible. Because as you guys know, at Impossible Performance, we are striving to build a global culture of strength, fostering a spirit of growth in constant pursuit of the impossible. So thank you for listening, and as always, be impossible. Thank you guys.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
That was incredible.